Okay, yeah. All right. You guys want to get going?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone's here. I'll call the regular. Pardon? I can't. Oh, we got to wait till 4 o'clock. Jeez.
Sorry. Rules are rules.
What do we got? Rules are rules, yeah. Can't violate those rules.
All right.
Now we can start. Okay, we'll call the regular meeting of the Carmel Planning Commission to order. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Allen,
Here.
Commissioner Delves,
Here.
Commissioner Karapetkov,
Here.
Commissioner Locke,
Here.
Chair LePage.
Here. I want to welcome you all here tonight. I also want to wish you all a happy Valentine's Day, because you know here at the Planning Commission it's all about the love. Although we've had some complaints that our Cupid has kind of sharp arrows, so
How long you been working on it?
Boy, he came ready
hey,
with that one.
right off the top of my head. Okay, we have an announcement from the director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a hard one to follow. So, as we all know, under the Brown Act, public comments for matters on the agenda must relate to that agenda item specifically, and public comments for matters that are not on the agenda must still relate to a subject matter that are within the jurisdiction of this or any other legislative body, but specifically this one today. So this is just a reminder that if any member of the public attending this meeting remotely or in person violates the Brown Act by failing to comply with these requirements of the Brown Act, then the speaker is going to be muted, not allowed to speak any further. In simpler terms, we don't tolerate or allow or welcome any sort of hateful or derogatory speech that doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing here today. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that brings us to the public appearances. Anyone from the public may address the Planning Commission at this time about any matters of municipal concern which are not on our agenda tonight. So anyone from the public can come forward, speak to us, like I said, about any items which are not on our agenda tonight. Nobody coming up. Do we have anybody online?
No one online.
No hands going up? Okay. All right. That brings us to the public hearings. So we have, I think, 4 items on the public hearings tonight. The first item is a design study. This is DS 21-446, the Pressy project. This is consideration of a combined concept and final design study and associated coastal development permit for the demolition of an existing 1,038 square foot, 1-story single-family residence and a 247 square foot detached garage, and the construction of a 1,392 square foot, 1-story single-family residence and a 253 square foot attached garage. This is located on 3rd Avenue and Santa Fe. Single-family residence. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the project was previously considered at the December 2023 Planning Commission hearing. The project underwent a concept review. The Commission was generally supportive of the project. However, at the hearing, there were some height issues discussed, as well as a view concern raised at the hearing that the Commission did not have the benefit of touring the neighbor's site. The view issue raised by the the neighbor was first brought up at the hearing. So the item was continued with direction to the applicant to address the height issues discussed at the hearing, as well as to address the view impact, as well as allow the commission the opportunity to assess the view impact brought up by the neighbor. So this has been brought back as a combined concept and final. So the applicant has revised the height. This is the west elevation of the building. One of the issues identified was the west elevation exceeded the height limits, so the height has been reduced by about a foot, 11 inches to be precise. This has been accomplished by reducing the plates by 11 inches. The finished floor level was brought up by 1 inch, so it's a net decrease in 11 inches despite lowering the plates by a foot. On the south elevation, again, we had the plates reduced by a foot. This is the same analysis as before, where the south elevation does exceed the plate height as well as the ridge height for a one-story building. But when you consider this elevation as a two-story building, it does meet our height requirements. In doing so, you do need to count that underfloor area that exceeds 5 feet in height as floor area. So there's a small sliver of building section that does need to be considered in floor area, despite it just being used as an underfloor area. This isn't a variance or any type of interpretation being made by staff. It is suggested in the design guidelines, which is that bottom highlighted section. It says if floor levels cannot be stepped, large underfloor spaces should be counted and used as part of the allowed floor area. So this is what the design guidelines as well as zoning code suggests doing in these type of situations. We have a similar situation with a small portion of the garage, and we already did have a mechanical room. So in doing so, there's an additional 41 square feet of the residence and an additional 28 square feet of the garage that would need to be counted as additional underfloor space. And that's just based on the elevation above the finished floor exceeding 5 feet in height. The total floor area of the residence is about 1,600 square feet, so well below the 1,800 square foot floor area limit for the property. In respect to the view concerns, this is a photo that was provided by the neighbor following the first concept hearing back in December. So this does not reflect the revised story poles, which the commission saw on site yesterday. The story poles have been dropped by 11 inches. The orange netting is about, just for reference, 16 inches wide. So if you just imagine these story poles dropping 11 inches of those 16 inches of orange netting, that would reflect the new netting. The neighbor was not able to make the site visit and requested the commission did not visit the site without them present. So unfortunately, the commission did not have the benefit of making a proper site visit. However, you can assess the impact based on the photo provided by the neighbor. And then the finished materials were described in the prior staff report. There have been no changes, but they are shown on the slide for reference. And with that, staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt a resolution as described on the screen. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the commissioners or staff?
No.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite the applicant to come up and make their presentation. Before we get started, sorry, come on up. I allow 5 minutes for applicants to make their presentation, and public comments 3 minutes, and if necessary, I'll grant additional time for the applicant to have rebuttal time.
Okay, hello again, Chair LePage and commissioners and planners and staff. Thank you for showing up. It's an extra meeting, I understand, this week, so thanks for all the work you put in. I know it's a lot of work evaluating all of these projects, so thank you for showing up on this special day for those who observe. So in response to the issues that were raised before in December, And in concern for the neighbors' views, we've lowered the plate heights, as Evan said, by 12 inch, well, lowered the plate heights from 9 feet to 8 feet. We had previously set the floor elevation an inch higher than the civil plan, which I noticed too late. But so yes, 11 inches is the net lowering of the house. We consulted with the civil engineer to consider lowering the floor of the garage, but were advised that that would cause some serious drainage issues, and we just don't want to go there. So we recognize our concerns over the height of the house and the garage at the rear, but I'm happy, you know, we have extra site coverage and floor area, so I'm happy if that solution would be agreeable to you. So really don't have much to present. Hopefully those changes have resolved the concerns that were identified, and hope you'll be able to approve this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the architect? Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'll invite members of the public to come make their comments.
Chair LePage and members of the commission, nice to see you. My name is Julie Wendt, and I am the neighbor with my husband. We live on the south side of the subject property, and I don't need to tell you that new construction can bring out the worst in some neighbors, but we are here to support the Pressy project. They have been very sensitive to our home and to all of the neighbors, really. And from our vantage point, we're actually going to come out a little bit better on the privacy issues. I don't know if you noticed on the north side of the Pressy, of the existing property, it's all windows. It's like a glass wall. So not much privacy there. But now with the new proposal and the new design, the windows will be up higher, and they will be much smaller, so allowing us much more privacy. And because they are up higher, the windows on the Pressy design will not look directly into our windows. So they might be able to see me if I'm standing at the window, but that's okay. We also have window coverings. Aside from our personal benefit from the project, there are several other benefits for Carmel in general and for the neighborhood. And I'll just read through them quickly, but the design is very sensitive to the neighborhood in that it's one story. From the 3rd Street elevation, it's, I think, 14 or 15 feet high, so it's quite modest, quite small in scale. From the Santa Fe Street vantage point, it appears as a one-story. So really, the only disadvantage, if you want to call it that, of seeing the higher 2nd story, or what's actually 1.5 story, is from our vantage point. And we are absolutely fine with the design. So it also is, so it's under maximum height, it's under square footage allowed for the lot, it's one story, it's using the existing footprint, which means that there won't be a lot of dirt being removed and truckloads carrying it out to disrupt the neighborhood. It's a nice revival style with a simple roof form, and the architectural style blends in with the neighborhood. The drainage on the property will be greatly improved, which will also personally benefit our property since we're downhill from it. And then the overall appearance on the corner, this Carmel corner, will be greatly improved. So the Pressys and their architect, Tom Hardy, they have really done everything right in this project. They've approached the neighbors. They've been very sensitive to our concerns, and I don't think this project would affect anyone. And it's a one-story. I notice everything else on your agenda is two-story. So it'll be a nice place for the Pressys to age in place. So I hope that you will approve it as submitted. And I know that we all want the Pressys to be happy with their home. One thing that I recall from the last meeting, someone called in and said that they objected to the combination of window use of arched and rectangular. And I just want to say, I hope you don't take that seriously, because if you just walk the streets of our historic downtown buildings, there are several historic buildings that have a combination of arched windows and rectangular windows. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, is there anyone else in the public who'd like to come forward? See, Carolyn's coming up.
Chair LePage and commissioners, nice to see you. I am here today because you're presented with the two issues particularly, and I'm here to speak regarding the neighbor's view. Maybe I don't need to say this, but I will. At the December 13th meeting, I heard the woman who lives at Santa Rita and 3rd on the southwest corner say she had bought the property 19 years ago with a, quote, peak of the ocean, unquote. And from the photo she provided you, it appears that the trees have grown and have filled in whatever view she might have had, and demonstrates that even without lowering this house, this project would not impact her view. Her photos show a wonderful view of a lot of garbage cans and a power pole with all the power lines and a lot of trees, but there's no discernible ocean view. And if it were that important to her, she would have cooperated with the city staff and you as commissioners to allow access to her property to assess any potential view impact, but she denied access. So the Presseys would certainly have the right to build out a 1,800 square foot house on this 4,000 square foot lot, but they are not doing that. What you're presented with is a modest house on a difficult lot. And there's no perfect lot in Carmel, as you know. And not everything is achievable on every site, as you know. So I hope you will acknowledge the site constraints and apply your discretion to approve the project as presented. And lastly, I'm sure that the neighbors should be jumping for joy that someone's going to improve this neglected property and deal with the overgrown landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to address the Planning Commission? I see we have one hand up. Why don't we acknowledge that at this time? You want to unmute yourself? There you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Go ahead.
I'm the neighbor that you're all talking about. I did send a handful of photos, not just that one, but we do have a view of the ocean. And unless it's, if it's not a clear day, you're not going to differentiate the sky from the water. And we still do have, we have had a view all these years. I have not been in town. And I even told the gentleman who I had emailed that we don't live there full time, and we work, and I haven't been to Carmel in a handful of weeks. I am going this weekend, and I had offered the opportunity for him to come Friday late afternoon after we drive into town, if he'd like to come and see our view. And so we are concerned about it being high, but I'm glad that they have lowered the main house by a foot. At the last meeting, it said that the garage limit was supposed to be 15 feet legally. And I was just wondering if they lowered that down to below 15 feet.
We'll answer that question in our discussion for you. Okay. Do you have any other comments?
Can I comment on other things that I noticed?
Absolutely. You still have time. Go ahead.
Okay. So the other thing I noticed on the plans that I saw online, it looks like there are numerous trees and shrubs being planted along the backside of the house for their privacy screen. My concern is that those are going to grow up over time and block whatever view we have left. is there any way that those can be shorter shrubs and need to, be kept below the level of the house so it doesn't impact what view we end up being left with?
As I said, we'll talk about these in our comment section. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, is there anyone else in the chamber here that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this application? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Allen, would you like to begin?
Yeah, so from what we could tell on the site visit, I felt comfortable that what they had done in terms of bringing the height down had really helped the situation. And so I think that this is a nice project, and it's rare that we see single story. And so I would be open to moving forward with this.
And Commissioner Locke, your comments?
Yeah, I agree with what she said, and I think the color palette's really pretty. So I think this is a really nice project.
And Commissioner Dels, your comments?
I'm ready to approve this project. I agree. On the views, it's virtually impossible to assess a view situation if we don't see it, and we weren't given an opportunity to see it. I actually did climb up on the city piece of that property next to a tree and had a look. We take views very seriously. We take privacy very seriously. We're very good at looking at orange netting and assessing it. Our job is to do our best to protect significant views, and as best that I could tell, that the view is not impacted in a significant way, and I'm ready to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Dels. Commissioner Karapetkoff.
I think this is a great example how to remodel a house in Carmel on a 4,000 square feet lot. I'm glad they're not trying to get to the absolute maximum because it will be crowded if you stay on one floor. And they made I think the right choice to make the house 1,600 square feet and leave some breathing space around it. I applaud them for reducing the height of the building. And cannot see any obstacles to approving this project in terms of view protection, etc. We had a chance to see that yesterday. It didn't look like views are severely impacted, so I think that wouldn't be a problem. And we got so much support from the neighbors, so if we get so much support from the neighbors, that's a very good sign. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, did you want Evan to answer any?
Yeah, I was going to ask some questions. The neighbor, I just wanted to get her questions answered. So one question was about the landscaping, and I'm looking at the landscaping plan without really studying it. I'm not familiar with all these symbols, but they're not requiring any additional trees on this, are they?
There's one additional upper canopy
One
tree
upper
that's
canopy.
proposed. The remaining, sorry, I'm trying to scroll the landscape plan.
So the upper canopy is the one.
It's on the west elevation.
It's on the west elevation.
So if you're looking, are you on sheet L2?
Yeah, let me get over there.
I can pull it up on the slideshow.
Yeah, why don't you do that? That'd be great.
Actually, it might take me a second. I don't have it.
I get an idea where it is and how it impacts the views.
Yeah.
Sebastian, will you flip over to the projector, please? Hit the AF button in the middle.
So this is the proposed upper canopy tree right here.
And
the
that
west
is,
elevation.
that's the east elevation?
That's the west.
West.
Sorry, I'll talk into the microphone. That's the west
Oh, yeah,
elevation.
yeah, that's the west elevation. Okay.
And then These are the trees down, or the shrubs down behind the garage. I believe the intent of these are for screening. You might want to confirm with the architect. However, as you might remember from the site, that's set well down below the street. I believe it's a 6 to 8 foot drop down below the street. So even if they were to grow to 10, 20 feet, it's still well lower than the street level.
Okay. And that picture that we had, is that the current netting?
That was the photo provided by the neighbor following the first concept hearing.
So we don't have a photo with the second?
No.
And the ridge height was lowered by?
11 inches.
11 inches, so it's approximately a foot lower. Okay. All right.
Chair LePage, is
Yes.
it my understanding that this canopy tree actually could pose an issue? If you were at the neighbor's house, is that what I'm seeing, or?
The upper canopy tree that's
Yeah.
proposed? Yeah, I could see that. The issue with views, well, first of all, property owners don't own the views, but the guidelines speak to respecting existing views and also not making significant impacts on them. So that's the context in which we have to review this. There's, from the photograph, there's already a lot of trees in the view shed from that property, which the trees are a nice view too. I mean, everybody wants to make the water view the most desirable one, but the trees have, I think in my mind, have as much value for a view as the water does. And we have a continually changing, forest and landscape situation around the community. So it's not like any of these views are static. They're always going to be impacted by the growth of trees or the removal of trees. We have a responsibility and a legal obligation to maintain a certain ratio of upper and lower canopy trees, and that's how these properties are evaluated. And when a tree is required of the property owner to be planted, obviously it needs to be planted in an area which is going to promote the health of the tree, not cause problems with infrastructure such as power lines in the case of upper canopy trees. And then I think a secondary consideration is how it's going to impact view sheds. But like I said, that's not a static condition. So it seems to me where it's planted is a reasonable place. But does staff have any opinion about that as far as the placement of that upper canopy tree?
No, Mr. Chair. I mean, Evan and I were just discussing that. I mean, our code speaks more directly to structures getting in the way of views. It does talk a little bit about the city forester having authority to reduce the number of required trees if there may be an impact to views. But I think this has gone through all those channels, and the forester has reviewed this location.
Yeah, the recommendation of the forester was one upper canopy tree based on the site conditions. It has an adequate number of lower canopy trees, but it's lacking in the upper canopy trees.
So I think with that in mind, staff would support this because it came
Right,
from our
but
city
does the
forester.
city forester ever indicate or where the tree's supposed to go?
Generally, yes. If it's an inappropriate location, we can discuss alternative locations. If it's an appropriate location, he generally won't say, yes, this is perfect. But if it's an inappropriate location, he would advise against a proposed location.
And the criteria for appropriate would be for the health of the tree.
Exactly.
And also that it doesn't-
Overcrowding
Right.
or proximity to other trees and tree roots.
Okay. All right. Was there any other questions that caller had? The garage, the height?
The height, yeah. So in the rear setback, the height limit for the building is 15 feet.
And that's what the garage is?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah.
If it's not, we can double check it.
But it's lower than the structure, right? Than the
Yes.
main residence?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
the garage has always been lower. The garage was lowered by, I believe, 6 inches at least. It wasn't lowered the full foot, but I believe it was lowered 6 inches in the plate height, which resulted in a 6-inch reduction in the ridge height.
Okay.
And we can verify it during plan check that the project would need to comply with our height limits. So if for some reason the height is not compliant, we can verify through the plan check process just to
Right.
make sure it is compliant with that 15-foot height limit.
In other words, we wouldn't approve the building permit until the building permit set showed a 15-foot garage in the back.
Right. Okay.
And it would just be the back. The front is compliant. It is just the back if there is any type of issue or discrepancy.
Okay. In my opinion, the netting we're looking at now is lower, and I think the view is such that the structure doesn't impact more than 50% of the existing view. So, and there's already a residence there, so it's already had a certain amount of impact to it. So I don't think it qualifies as significant. And it seems to me, from my limited expertise, that the location of the tree is appropriate for the health of the tree and not to cause problems with power lines and so forth. So I don't think there's any need for any other special conditions to be added. I didn't hear any other concerns from the commission. They seem supportive. So we have a resolution with some pretty standard special conditions, just construction management, approval acknowledgement, correction in the underfloor calculation areas. That's number 33, study, landscape inspection, and the tree planting requirement. So,
I move to approve the resolution.
okay. Do we have a
I'll
second?
provided by
second that.
staff.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes. The motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. This one you have to.
Yeah, I have to recuse.
The next item is one that Commissioner Dells has to recuse himself. This is Design Study 23354, the Lininger project. This is consideration of a combined concept and final, an associated coastal development permit for a 373 square foot second floor addition and a 60 square foot first floor addition to an existing 1,280 square foot single family residence with a 329 square foot attached garage located on Casanova Street, 3 southeast of 4th Avenue. Can we have staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to note that Commissioner Delves is recused from this item. He is sitting in the audience, but he's well aware not to make faces at the planning commissioner or give any sort of indication of his preference for the project. So, thank you.
We will ignore him.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you, Chair. So this is a 4,000 square foot lot currently developed with a 1,600 and some square foot residence. That includes a 329 square foot attached garage. The applicant is proposing a 433 square foot addition. That includes an approximately 300 square foot second floor addition, and as well as a addition on the ground floor. The alterations also include the expansion of a deck above the existing garage, as well as a accessory dwelling unit, which is not part of this review. So there's no tree removal proposed as part of the project or any tree planting required as part of the project. However, that tree planting has yet to be determined by the forester. The site is effectively proposed to be untouched. The alterations proposed are strictly limited to the addition of the second floor, the ground floor addition at the rear, as well as the alteration to the deck. The site coverage is effectively proposed to remain, and there's no landscape improvements proposed either. However, if there is the opportunity for additional tree planting, we will work with the forester on that. So in respect to privacy and views, the applicant has worked with the majority of the neighbors on the project and has reached out to them throughout the review. To the north, one of the concerns of the northern neighbor were privacy impacts regarding the second floor addition. As you can see here, there are no windows facing north, and then for this new second floor deck, we do have a privacy screen wall on this deck. Facing south, we just have a little window here, which is a bathroom window. So there are no privacy impacts that are proposed or appear to be associated with the project. In respect to mass and bulk, it was brought to staff's attention early yesterday that the neighbor to the south does have some concerns regarding the mass of the building as viewed from their second floor living room windows. These are some photos that were sent to staff as well as forwarded to the commission in a letter that was provided from the neighbor. So this would be the view looking out of these windows right here towards the project. So as you can see, it is just an existing single-story building. Where my laser pointer is, this is the existing building with the addition here, and this would be the view of the neighbors, or the view that the neighbor would see looking out their windows here. So we do have some recommended conditions of approval, including the volume study, meeting the tree density, if the forester sees that there is the available space for additional trees, providing a landscape plan for any removed site coverage, as well as providing a archaeological report as the site is located within the archaeological significance overlay. There is a small section of excavation on the site to accommodate a addition at the rear of the building, which does trigger the requirement for an archaeological report. So with that, staff's recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving a combined concept and final design study. In light of the concerns raised by the neighbors late yesterday at the hearing, we do have some alternatives. One would be to accept the concept only with conditions or directions as appropriate, or to continue the item with direction as appropriate. And that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions for staff?
No.
You have questions?
Only one. Can you explain the ADU portion of it? Because there's some portion of the house that will be converted to a attached ADU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that you basically nailed it. They're converting a portion of the residence to an ADU. That is.
So it's a junior ADU?
No, it's a conversion accessory dwelling unit. And they're basically using that square footage from the the ADU and taking that floor area and using it for the addition.
And it does meet all the requirements for ADU, it has separate access and everything else?
It has separate access, it's not interaccessible, it has a kitchen and bathroom. Yep, it is a ADU. ADUs, not to go down the ADU rabbit hole, but ADUs can be attached, detached, or a conversion. So you can convert existing living space and have that be considered an ADU.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for staff? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Evan. All right, would the applicant like to come forward at this time, make their presentation?
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Lionel Liniger. I am the homeowner. I thought what I would do is start a little bit, since this is our first meeting, talk about why we're doing this project. First of all, my wife and I, we are the homeowners. We are not investors. We live about an hour and 40 minutes away, and we look forward to being part of this community every weekend on a vacation basis. We have 3 children, and so one goal we have for the property is to actually be able to accommodate being able to come down here with all 3 of our kids. Unfortunately, one of our children, our middle daughter, is in a medical situation where she will not be able to live independently. And so that is the goal for the ADU, is to create a semi-independent space for her. There is no intent ever to rent it out. There is no intent ever to do anything other than have a place for her to stay that is close by but not attached. So that is the reason why we are doing this. We started this process in the fall. Starting in early October, we reached out to all of our immediate neighbors where we shared a property line and invited a conversation and in a collaboration. Thank you for pointing some of that out. During that process, we made lots of concessions, probably the wrong word, but concessions with our neighbors, took their feedback, made changes, addressed different topics that they were comfortable with or not comfortable with. And we certainly appreciate that people have their own lives and have other things to do, and we did the best we could throughout that process. So for those neighbors that did engage with us, we certainly appreciate their time. One of the things we also did as part of this project is try to rectify the non-compliant items that were on the lot. Certainly this is a house with a lot of character, that's an award-winning house. We tried really hard to keep the character of that house and the curb appeal of that house, but there were massive site coverage issues due to non-permeable material everywhere, which likely caused drainage problems. As part of this, we are proposing to remove all of that, to roll that back, and to fully comply with the regulations as it relates to site coverage. That is all I have. I appreciate your time, and I will turn it over to Patrick Lemaster, my architect.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Brandon, Evan, thanks. Good evening. I guess I'll just go over kind of the...
Could you just move a little closer to the mic so we can get it on the record? Thank you.
I'll just start off by kind of giving you a brief overview of when I was engaged and what we saw as the constraints of the site and kind of where that led to the second story. Basically, the rear of the yard, if you saw on your site visit, there's a retaining wall, which is about 42 inches, 3 feet to 42 inches tall. So going in the backyard was not impossible, but could be challenging, not to mention drainage issues and whatnot that would come up. So we thought that going up would make the most sense after exploring that. We worked with the neighbors, as Lionel said, regarding height. We knew there was going to be potential view issues, so we reached out, we flagged and put ropes up and engaged them. We also knew there would be some light issues with the neighbor to the south, so I intentionally shifted the mass of the second floor. It's 2 feet 3 inches over, as far, per the plan now, as far over as I could go to try to appease that. You know, it's whenever I get engaged for an addition or a renovation, my goal is to basically make the house appear as if it was never remodeled and it was part of the original architecture. So working with the same roof pitches and elements dictates some of the heights and whatnot. We are well below the height limit. We have a 7.6 plate in the primary bedroom upstairs, trying to keep the massing in bulk as low as possible, basically. If you know, that's about it. If there's any other questions that I could answer, feel free to let me know.
Are there any questions for the architect and the commissioners? Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite other members of the public to come forward and speak to us.
Hi, Chairman LePage and Commissioners. Thank you for visiting our home yesterday. Basically, you could see our concern. You know, we did receive some text messages in the fall that there was a planned addition. I did not engage any experts. I actually relied on the former owner of the property who redeveloped it 20 years ago, Ron Barr, to see what he thought, because I knew he would have maxed out the property himself because he was thoughtful, an accomplished businessman and dentist. So he did think it through, and obviously it won an award, and it subsequently flipped, you know, several times. So it is a perfect little house, and then we did see some photos from a friend with the netting on top, and then when I received your notice last week, we decided to fly out here and see for ourselves. And of course, the netting moved ever closer to our home, and which, you know, you saw yesterday, and obviously it's in the photos. But our largest concerns are privacy. Bathroom window in our living room is not the best thing. Sunlight, and then airspace. Right now, we do have this incredible northern view, which we will lose under the current situation. And you know, obviously, you know, the quality of life issue. And then the other concern would be parking. You know, there's between the two houses that are there at the bottom of Casanova. The third one, I don't know what the situation is with that one. And then you have the median or the island in the middle of Casanova. It can be a busy area. A lot of people cut through Casanova to get to 4th to go to Pebble Beach, and of course, Casanova presently is under extreme construction, which has been going on for years. So, like I said, we're disappointed that things are changing, but we understand progress. But you know, thank you for coming to visit, and hopefully you can make some decisions. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to address the Planning Commission regarding this project? Nobody in the chambers coming up? I don't see any hands online. Julia?
No, nothing online.
Oop, we got one there. Came up quick. Okay. All right, you have the floor. I think it's Ms. Tollner?
Yes, thank you so much. I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. When our clients to the immediate south of the subject property had an unexpected personal health scare in 2020, Carmel Realty, we listed their property, which was a bittersweet. Then followed the good news from our client's doctor, and we canceled the listing. That personally brought me great joy, since they own the property for over 20 years and have been good citizens. And it was always meant to be their forever home for their family and children. Away from the East Coast, where their primary home is. And I mean, when you live in town this long, you love Carmel and you want to be here. While views and privacy, among other property features, are always considered whether we're buying or selling, when we marketed their property, we talked about how it was tastefully renovated, easy living by the sea property with an ocean view, open floor plan with superb natural light and ultimate privacy, and that the home evoked beach house living with a modern touch. This natural light and ultimate privacy is going to be, in my opinion, forever changed with the proposed second-story addition from the main rooms of my client's next-door property, where the northerly views are the prominent views, which provide amazing natural light, and it's majestic because it's overlooking homes and in the distance, beautiful trees. While the owners of the subject property communicated with our clients via text, which I was kept apprised of, and I appreciated that there was communication, they did acknowledge their concerns, my client's concerns, stating they were able to come up with a plan that offsets the upstairs towards the north property line and away from the property line between their houses and my clients by a couple feet. They also stated they removed all the windows on that side to maximize privacy, which meant the south side windows of the second-story addition of the subject property. And they refer to it the most private, maximum privacy. But the most private room, in my opinion, is a bathroom, and there is a bathroom toilet room window that wasn't eliminated that faces my client's living room. I don't know how it lines up, but you know, Carmel, you all can't dictate window coverage, and that concerns me. If it gets approved, I feel like it should be some kind of glass where you can't.
Excuse me, but could you summarize your comments? You're over your 3 minutes now.
Can I have just one more minute, please?
All right.
Otherwise, I'm curious why there isn't a full guest bathroom on the main floor for the 2 guest bedrooms, only a powder room, and how this remodeled home near 20 years ago came up with additional water credits for this project. Perhaps they bought Malpaso water, I wouldn't know. Lastly, having listed the property for a brief time and having sold the property to the south, 2 away, I know parking on this sloped Casanova Street is extremely difficult, and I have great concerns.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else here in the chamber who would like to make a comment, or online? I don't see any additional hands going up. Nobody here in the chamber. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open up to the commissioners for their comments.
Mr. Chair, did you want to give the applicant's representative any
Oh,
opportunity?
yeah, would you like to respond to? Sure. All right. Come forward. Yeah, we need you. We record these meetings, and we see your mouth moving, but we wouldn't hear anything, so.
I guess I
you
would
need
just
to come
say
up.
this is the first we've heard of any offering of design input in terms of moving a wall a couple feet and removing the window in the bathroom. So this is the first to our knowledge of ever hearing about that. And we are definitely open to these ideas and working with the neighbors, definitely.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Karapetkov, would you like to begin, or?
Yeah. I was looking at the bathroom on the second floor. There's only one window on that particular wall, so I think it's, I'm not sure if this is a problem. It can be frosted glass, obviously, but there's no window into the shower. There's no window into the closet, so the other rooms do not have any windows. So I think the applicant has made an effort here to limit the number of windows on the second floor. I think the design makes sense for a family with 3 kids. I think I think the applicant explained very well what they're trying to accomplish. The way the ADU is designed also makes sense for the middle daughter. And if it meets all the requirements, and I saw the square footage requirements are met, I think we should be fine here. I see they even put 2 different beds in the bedroom here on the first floor for the 2 kids. So everything is kind of planned for that family. I would like to make sure that we address all issues that the neighbors raise. I'm very encouraged to hear that a lot of the work has been done. If there are any last-minute requirements that we need to pay attention to, I think they were raised here at the meeting. But in general, I think the architect and the applicant made a good effort to present a plan that is reasonable for that particular location, and I would like to support it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Locke, your comments, please?
Sure. So I was unable to actually do the site visit yesterday, although I drove by and observed you sitting on your deck out there and did a couple of up and down the street to try to get an understanding of what was going on. And I appreciate the photographs that were provided because it really is in your face, is what I'm going to say. I find, well, first of all, I talked to staff about this. It's an interesting concept to convert existing square footage to an ADU to facilitate square footage that can go upstairs. And I know that we have, really no control of the ADU approval process, but in this case, that's exactly what's happened, and it's impacting the neighbor to the south. I do find it interesting that a family of 3 kids, you've got kind of an odd situation. You've got a half bathroom downstairs and you've got 2 bedrooms, which means your kids are going to have to go upstairs and use the master bathroom to take a shower. So, it's just interesting. I think that I'd like to see some kind of compromise to help reduce the impact to the neighbor. But obviously, if this meets all the requirements, we'll go forward with that. But those are my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Allen, your comments, please?
I have nothing more to add. I totally agree with Commissioner Locke, and I just think that potentially there's some things that we could do to alleviate the issue that we're seeing. I mean, when you walk into the neighbor's living room, it is not visually attractive to look out onto someone's home that they or the second story when you've had all of that beautiful tree canopy view for some time. So I wish we could do something to correct that situation.
Do you feel that it is a significant impact on their view?
I felt like Commissioner Locke's description was good. It is definitely in your face.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Yeah, I only have one issue with this, and that it's the impacts to the neighbor. I feel that there's a significant impact to their view. And I know that is a subjective term, but in an effort to quantify it, when I look at a view and I see at least 50% of it impacted, that's significant. So that's how I address it. We don't design these projects, we just identify the impact. So having said that, and also what the other 2 commissioners are saying, and I don't think Commissioner Carpatko, did you speak to the view, or Was that was one of your concerns? So this is up for concept and final, but it seems to me there's a significant impact to view here. So I don't see how this project can go forward to the final. It seems to me there needs to be some additional work to be done to lessen that impact to the neighbors to the south. So it'd be my recommendation to the commission that we amend the resolution to provide an additional condition that they address the view to the neighbor to the south, and that this just be a concept resolution and not a final.
So, Mr. Chair, can I clarify?
Yes, go ahead.
So what I believe I hear you saying is we would, because this is one of the options that Evan put in his slide, this meeting would then serve as the concept hearing. You would adopt a concept resolution approving that with the direction to whatever you decide, reduce the impacts, work with the neighbor, whatever that is. And then we would come back for a second hearing, which would be the final hearing, to either approve it if they've made changes that satisfy the commission, or continue it for more changes. Is that fair?
Correct. Yeah, we could continue at this stage, but I feel like it'd be more productive at this time to approve the concept with direction, a special condition that they work with the neighbors to mitigate the impacts of the second story. So that would be my motion.
Thank you. I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the resolution of concept with an added special condition that they work with the neighbors to the south to mitigate the impacts to the views from their living room. Any more discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Okay, the next item on the public hearings tonight is another design study. This is DS 23-124. It's the Rican U project. It's consideration of a concept design study for the demolition of an existing 1,026 square foot, two-story single-family residence and the construction of a new 1,639 square foot, two-story single-family residence and 261 square foot attached garage. It's located on Santa Fe Street, 4 southeast of 2nd Avenue. We have staff report, please.
Well, thank you, Chair LePage. So the next item before you, as you mentioned, is the Rican U project. It is located on Santa Fe, southeast of 2nd. It is on the truck route. The project site is a 4,000 square foot lot. The existing two-story residence is just over 1,000 square feet. The site doesn't have any kind of structured parking. It's all uncovered in its current condition. So the applicant is proposing a full demolition and constructing a new 1,600 square foot two-story residence with a tuck-under garage that's a little over 260 square feet. The total project square footage would be 1,900 square feet, which includes a 100 square foot basement bonus. So the project includes the proposed removal of 3 Monterey pines. These trees were rated moderately significant during the preliminary site assessment. And if the Planning Commission were to accept the concept design this afternoon, then before final details, the applicant would apply for the tree removal permit before coming back for final approval. With respect to privacy, as you saw on the tour of inspection, the neighbor to the north has some south-facing windows and does have some concerns regarding privacy. I've noted here the 6 windows on the project site that face north, and then an elevation of those windows below. Staff had drafted a special condition that the applicant consider frosting some of these windows to ensure privacy. So that's something the commission can discuss this evening. Also, with respect to privacy, the entry to this home is proposed on the north side yard. So there's a covered front porch with a front door that faces north. The neighbor did express some concerns about privacy regarding the orientation of this front entry. Staff did draft a special condition recommending that the entry be shifted to the west. So another design item for the commission to consider this evening. The neighbor to the north had also expressed some concerns regarding light. This is the best photograph that I could find that shows the south-facing windows. The front of the house is off to the left. So you can see, unfortunately there's no story poles there, but those are the windows that are most concerning to the neighbor. With respect to parking and access, the residential design guidelines do provide for parking under the house as an option when other design tradition objectives are met. So the guidelines do contemplate this type of design. The guidelines go on to say, in limited circumstances, a garage may be located under a structure when the visual impacts will be minimized, and when they do not create a ramp effect or introduce tall or massive retaining walls. So staff does have some concerns about the proposed driveway leading to the tuck-under garage. The face of the garage would be at the 15-foot front setback. There's an additional 12 and a half feet of right-of-way before you reach the edge of the street. So the total depth is about 27 and a half feet. The driveway is a little over 12 feet wide, and at its tallest point at the face of the garage, the driveway wall on the north is a little over 7 feet. So to staff, this sort of looks like what the guidelines describe as a ramp effect with tall retaining walls. Additionally, there would need to be a railing on top of the wall for fall protection because that is the walkway leading up to the front door. I do want to note the wall is proposed to terminate at the front property line, so it would not extend into the right-of-way, but it's unclear what the height of the wall would be at that point. And I guess that is all I have. Staff is recommending that you do accept the concept design with special conditions. And some of those include obtaining approval for the tree removal before final details, reconsidering the north-facing windows, either using opaque glass or maybe using skylights instead to get natural light to help mitigate any privacy impact to the north neighbor, reorienting the front entry door, providing a solar study to really look at the impacts that the proposed design might have on the north neighbor's south-facing windows. And I believe the architect is prepared this evening to speak to that in their presentation. And then also addressing the driveway ramp and retaining walls. And with that, I will conclude my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Are there questions for staff from the commission? Thank you, Marnie. Okay, at this time, I'll invite the applicant to come forward and make their presentation.
Thank you, Commission and Commissioners. I'm Keith Rieken, and that's my wife and Valentine, Jiyun, in the back. Thanks for having us on Valentine's Day. I have to take her to dinner after this. So I've been a resident of California for 37 years. When I first moved out here after college to work in the Bay Area, I kind of fell in love with Carmel, and my plan all along was, hey, this is where I want to be when I finally get to retire. We acquired the property 8 years ago, and we finally are getting around to having an empty nest and looking at our next chapter. And that's when we engaged with Adam to start to look at building where we want to be for the rest of our lives. So Carmel is definitely it. We're ready and willing to invest. Marnie knows we've been trying to get this done for a while. We started actually in March of last year. Had some setbacks and other things. But we're very willing to invest. I have several friends that have homes down here. This will be our primary home and full-time residence as soon as the home is completed. And we just want an equitable and complete review from the Planning Commission. We want to fit into the community and be welcomed into the community at the earliest convenience. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, do you have a question for the applicant? Come on back up. We're not done with you.
Hi. Question for you. I know you purchased the lot south of you at the same time you bought this property.
We did.
And when I'm looking at the plans for your proposed project this evening,
sure,
there's insufficient water for the project that you've proposed, which is 3.5 bathrooms.
Okay.
So where is the water coming from?
I'll have to defer to Adam on that because
Okay.
I'm not aware of that problem.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, would the applicant's architect like to come forward at this time?
Good evening, Chair LePage, members of the commission. I'm Adam Jesselnick. Thanks for reviewing this project tonight. Thank you, Marnie, for her thorough job on the staff report. I do have a little presentation, so I can maybe just
Sebastian, can you switch over for us?
This should work. All right, so this is a new home on the site of an existing home. As you were able to see, I'll just run through a little summary of my involvement. You know, basically their primary objective was for a home for themselves and for their children to come visit here when they live here full time. That was important to have the main living space and the primary bedrooms on one level. And also to create some private outdoor area on the lot because of, you know, the truck route. It's you know, difficult to use your front yard for any private use. We've worked closely with planning staff in developing the design for this home. We have basically gone through about 3 different submittals for this project in responding to, you know, planner concerns and staff, you know, identifying various items that we needed to address. And, you know, the one key aspect of the design of the house and the siding of the home was to basically be able to create a primary living space that, you know, has ideal light and takes advantage of the one sort of significant view, I think, which is possible from the lot, which is to the southwest. So even with, you know, the road and the tree coverage, there is the ability from that front sort of southwest corner of the lot to have a nice view with, you know, a little limited ocean, Point Lobos in the distance. We did look at the trees carefully. We were working with Justin Ono before he was the city forester, but he provided the report here. There's a slight discrepancy on the tree report in that 2 of the large Monterey pines were rated as 0 for health, which in my understanding means that they are not significant. So we've asked Justin to get back to us on that, but we do expect that we'll be approved to remove those 3 Monterey pine trees. And in fact, other Monterey pine trees in this area, as we've all seen, have been coming down quite frequently. So we do think that they're a significant risk to be left there. One of the key changes that we made in response to planning comments was to drop the house further. So actually the whole house was lowered by 6 inches. There's a little bit of a competing priority there. As you lower the house, then the distance to the garage gets increased. But basically the floor level of the garage as it sits currently is just under 3 feet lower than the roadway. So this diagram here is just basically illustrating the 3 trees that are proposed to be removed. Again, in terms of placement of the garage, we believe that on the north side made more sense, both for preserving the sunny, the southern light for the main living space, and just based on safety and neighboring residences in terms of being able to safely pull in and out of that garage. So from above, this is what the site looks like now. I think there's probably one more tree on this image than exists currently that came down. But you can see where some of the shading impacts come from are actually the existing tree canopy, both for this lot and for the neighbor to the north. So ideally, the light will improve with the removal of those trees. And this is just a helpful tool. Again, this is basically showing tree canopy shading. This diagram is midday on the spring equinox, showing the current trees, the shade that they're providing on this lot and the neighbor's home, just above the yellow and red lines. This is in winter, where there's even, the tree canopy is shading even more. And then just a few of the, basic design guidelines that I know you're all very familiar with. We were able to leave more than 60% of the property as open space or permeable site coverage. Again, that's partially due to tucking the garage and the extra bedroom underneath the house, the 3rd bedroom. We've got the open courtyard facing south to take advantage of the sunlight there. We created open space at the southwest corner of the property, and actually at the northwest corner of the property as well, with the front porch above the garage. And we did create some staggering on both side elevations. So that's just a clip of that north property line now, and the location of the house is between 3.5 feet and 6 feet from the property line. I believe we've covered all of those items. This is the view, the rendering of the view looking at the house from the street. And then I just wanted to try to briefly address the neighbors' comments, because we did get those. Again, we've been working with staff for a while now, so I think in the course of the second review is when the neighbors' comments came in. I met with the neighbor. We took a look at those concerns. I don't believe that the sunlight for solar access to the roof is impacted at all. And I can show you some videos of what we studied in terms of any solar impact of the proposed house to those bedroom windows. And then another note that I think probably was visible on site, but the floor level of the neighbor's house is about 4 feet higher than the floor level of the proposed house. So that's relevant both for sort of privacy impacts and for light. So let's see if this works. So this is June. This is when the sun is highest in the sky, of course, and so the shadow you're seeing on the neighbor's house is actually from the roof eave. There's no shadow at all from the proposed house in this case. This next one, I believe, should be at the equinox. And so you can see the roof ridge appearing there briefly in the morning, and then full sun throughout the rest of the day. And then this last one is the winter case. So this is on December 21st. Obviously the worst case in terms of the low sun angle. You can see the roof impacting that middle window in the morning. By midday, it's mostly sun, and in the afternoon, of course, it's full sun. So again, I think what's important to point out here too is the visual impact of the story poles is the roof and the porch, but that is an open porch, and it does create a little bit of space and deference to the neighbors' proximity at that location. And with that, I'll conclude my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions of the commissioners or staff. Thank you.
I have a question.
Questions for the architect? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I have a question. So the visuals that you're showing don't line up with how I think I saw the layout yesterday. So if you could bring up your last slide. Okay, so the window that is in the corner there, I believe that is your neighbor's living room. And when we were standing in the living room, the poles were further up. So I'm confused. I don't understand. This diagram I don't think is correct.
Well, I will review that. But again, basically, I think there's a little bit of a forced perspective happening. The story poles that you see are representative of the furthest extent of the roof of the porch, not of the house.
It was still further. Yeah,
they were
it
like
definitely
right
appeared
there.
to be farther to the west. It was almost like looking out the window. You were looking
Correct.
at the pole.
From the living room.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not.
Do you have a question?
So,
Commissioner Gals?
Adam, have you been in your neighbor's living room?
I have.
Okay, because I'm agreeing with these guys. What we saw was in your face. Is that a word?
That's the word.
So,
Yeah, I mean, if
and
you
that-
look at
that-
this site plan, right? Just the clip of it, sorry, that's all I have on this image. The corner of the house is the dark gray shading, which is just,
That's not where the
and then the corner of the porch there is not quite to the window.
Then your poles are wrong. I mean, I don't know what to say because that's not how it's viewing from in your neighbor's house.
Okay.
And Adam, could you respond to my question about the water for this project?
I'll have to go back and review my notes on that, but I do know when we began work on the project, it was, of course, with the understanding that they own both properties.
Okay, so that was kind of where I was going. Is there a plan to demolish the neighboring house to provide the additional credits that are needed to offset this
Not that I'm
property?
aware, not a full demolition of the house.
Okay,
but-
because there's no way you could do this without doing a full demolition. So there's no water other than if you were to fully demolish the other house. So,
okay.
Just bringing that up.
That's a good point.
Okay, any other questions for Adam? Thank you, Adam.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite any other public comments to come forward.
Good afternoon, Chair Page, Commissioners, and staff. Thank you for this opportunity to provide some comments. My name is Randy Turley, and I'm the neighbor directly to the north of the Riken U project. I am a novice when it comes to the procedures of the Commission, and I want to thank staff and particularly Marnie for being accessible and communicating with me throughout the process. It's been very easy to get information. I have written a detailed objection letter to the Commission and regarding the project, and that letter has been included with the staff's report and as an attachment, and I ask you to all read that letter. Like many new projects in Carmel, my objections fall into three categories: obstruction of views, removal of significant trees, and the diminishment of sunlight. Regarding the obstruction of views, during your visit to my house yesterday, you were able to see, as been commented, the effect that the house has from the center bedroom and the forward living room. And I know everybody will have their own opinion on this, but in my opinion, those views are significant. And like all the wonderful trees here in Carmel, I think the views should be protected as you have been discussing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else in the public that would like to address the commission?
Neil Cruz, Chairman, Council. Again, I commented about small pane windows yesterday and how they give a much more human feeling to a design. They make it more accessible to us. We tend to feel friendlier to a small pane house. If you look at, here's just a wide elevation, you can see that the windows leave you feeling cold about the house, you know. And so these clear windows do not really, in my opinion, give us what we call the Carmel character, the Carmel feeling. So again, I would like to see you at least talk about the windows in your discussion. I think that's basically it, is the windows. That's my biggest concern. Too much glass without any divisions here, and it just is not a friendly looking structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Okay, anybody else here in the chamber wants to come forward?
Can I make one more comment?
But well, you didn't use all your time. Come on up.
Okay.
I don't want to cut you short.
There was one tree, I've been discussing some of these tree issues with a friend, and there is one tree that's to the left of, it's the oak tree that's in the front of the property. The small oak tree, it's very close to the left retaining wall. And he seems to think that root zone is being, if they make that retaining wall, it's like, it's very, very close to the tree, and it's gonna just cut that thing off from future, you know, for being able to feed itself. So maybe not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I see Carol Hall has her hand up. Carol, you want to unmute yourself?
Okay, can you hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Thank you, commissioners, staff. It just seems like a non-starter to me, so many problems. 3 Monterey pines, and we've been losing our pines, as someone said, right and left. I don't think we want to lose 3 more of them. There's a cottage there, a very Carmel-esque cottage that I would hate to see lose, being demolished completely. And it's almost heresy to argue, well, let's take down these trees so we can have more light. It's just not Carmel. And I think the building itself looks modern and not in keeping with the old style of that area and of Carmel's charm generally. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, anybody else online with their hand up? I don't see anybody. Adam, come on forward.
Thank you all again. I'll just keep my comments really quick pertaining to the trees. I wasn't at all suggesting that we're proposing to remove Monterey pine trees to improve sunlight either for this lot or for the neighbor. But there are 2 very unhealthy trees, and as we've seen from these storms, it's a significant health and safety risk to have trees so close to anyone's home, really. I had 2 clients who had massive trees come through their roof last week. So I love trees. I like every lot. You know, every project I work on, I want to include as much of the landscape as possible. And we're happy to plant healthy trees in the locations that the forester recommends. But I feel like it's important to say that, you know, we talk about trees on almost every project, and trees unfortunately have a life like all of us. And when it's past their useful lifespan, it's time for them to come down. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Okay, any other comments from anybody? Don't see anybody jumping up. No hands up online. I assume Carol's done. She didn't take her hand down, but. Okay, I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commission for their comments. Commissioner Locke, you want to begin?
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, I think that there's some redesigning to be done on this project. And as we stated earlier, I think there's a significant impact to the north neighbor. It really, in my opinion, the way that this is laid out so close to this other property to the north, when you've got setbacks of 3 foot 6 inches and 5 foot 6 inches at the entry, I think it's really close, and it has it's just really insensitive to the neighbor. And I'd like to see, I mean, one thought I was just thinking, flip it around, it would make it better. The fact that that there is the potential for, and I'm just suggesting, but the potential for somehow integrating the two lots together to come up with a better project. I don't know what your plans are, obviously, but that would be something that I would say might be considered, especially if you are demolishing the other house. I am concerned about, so I say move it back, relocate the entry away from the neighbor, because I think when you have a porch, entry porch that's 5 feet away from the living room and very close to the bedroom, there's noise issues, there's privacy issues, there's light issues. The sunken driveway, or the driveway down to the garage, appears to me, based on the elevation plans, to look like a 2-story building from Santa Fe. I'm not sure that that is in keeping with the design standards, and I agree with staff that it does appear to be a ramp going down to the lower floor. I note that the driveway's aggregate concrete. Again, we've got another site coverage with impermeable surfaces. I do like the green window trim that's proposed, so I will say that. I think that Neil was correct in his comment about too much glass. There's a lot of glass, a lot of windows. There are huge doors and windows on this project, and they are not broken up. And I think that I just think that's not really in keeping with the character of the neighborhood at all. What else do I have? And I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing is that there is no fence proposed at this point, and I'd be curious what kind of fencing would be proposed between the neighbors for privacy issues. That's really all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Locke. Commissioner Allen, your comments?
Yeah, Commissioner Locke hit on everything that I was going to say. I can't say very much more. I would like the windows and the doors to be more human scale, and I would like to address the ramp down into the garage, and also the where the porch is located, and then finally. Just thinking about potentially changing the layout of this to maybe possibly sit back a little bit further if they're going to do some redesign. So that's all my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Delps, your comments?
Yeah, so my biggest concerns are for the northern neighbor. As I say many times, we're good at going into neighbors' properties and looking at orange netting and trying to assess whether that orange netting is an intrusion into privacy, views, sunlight, air, circulation, and in this case, it only took a second. It's a lot. It's the bedroom and the living room, and if it was just the bedroom, I'm not saying I'd have a different opinion, but because it is the bedroom and the living room, I was just really taken aback by it, and yes, story poles, I know, are indicating the edge of the porch, but that porch, it's a covered porch. And as far as the neighbor looking at it, it's still looking at a wall because there's the door and then the rest of the living room. So I don't think that the fact that it's a porch makes any difference. And one of our guidelines says that you can't get something at the neighbor's expense. That's, I'm paraphrasing, but I feel like you are getting more square footage in the front of the lot as currently designed, and I think it is at the expense of what the neighbor currently enjoys. I'm not going to suggest how to redesign it. That's not my job. You're very good at 4,000 square foot lots, but I think this one needs some more work. On the trees, those, I'm not an arborist, but those two trees right where the courtyard would be, they look frightening to me. So I'll just assume that our arborists will do their job, and if they can be removed, that hopefully that can be a fact, and that can maybe free you a little bit in terms of design. But it does feel like this thing, maybe it needs to move back, maybe it needs to move south, but you have to help your neighbor. On the windows, I also agree. I think they are not pedestrian-sized, Carmel windows, and I think they would benefit from mullions. And I've resisted mullions on many houses and ended up being okay with them, but I don't want them because they get in they impact the view. And what I've learned is they actually help. They help a view. They frame it. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Dels. Commissioner Karapetkoff, your comments?
Wow, so many comments. Wow, nothing left for me.
Just scraps.
I agree. I agree with the comments about that. I was trying to figure out exactly what can we do to improve the situation. Obviously, the neighbor's view is impacted. So one way to do that, if we can move this porch backwards and maybe move the laundry room downstairs. We already have stuff downstairs on the ground. Laundry room does not need to be on that level. I think it's actually kind of strange to have the laundry room right at the entrance. So maybe that's a way to kind of push the structure backward. Also, the courtyard is very big. I mean, it's big for a 4,000 square foot lot. So that pushes the structure further to the front. So maybe reducing the size of the courtyard is a good idea. If we can figure out some combination of porch, laundry, courtyard to move the building backwards and free the view of the neighbor, maybe save the pines. I don't know if we can save all of them, but the more we can save, the better. I think that would be very beneficial to the community as a whole. I think that is, everything else was covered by the previous speakers. So.
Okay, thank you. The big issue here that I see is that the staff has identified that basically the placement of the garage, retaining walls, the ramp, they don't meet the guidelines, and they've got a special condition in the conditions for acceptance. Number 8 says prior to final detailed review, the applicant shall revise the driveway to eliminate the ramp effect and the need for retaining walls. So that's a pretty significant redesign. So that's a biggie. I mean, that's gonna require some redesign work on this. I saw a significant impact to the neighbor's view, particularly from the bedroom. So whatever you can do to mitigate that would be good, possibly moving it back on the lot. But I think the big design element here I see that needs to be some attention, which is identified by staff, is the driveway and retaining walls. So having said that, I am ready to accept a motion from one of the commissioners for a resolution.
Mr. Chair, while the commissioners are deciding who and how they want to make their motion, I think similar to the last item, I think we just would offer the option, you know, that to remind you of your options. You could continue this for another concept hearing. You could accept the concept resolution. We would need to get enough findings to put on there that, so it was in fairness to the applicant team, so that when they came back for a final hearing, they knew what the final design should look like. So those are the two main options. Of course, you're as creative as you want to be, but those would be the two that we would suggest considering, either continuing this as come back for another concept hearing based on the number of changes you've suggested, or put all those changes as specific conditions into the concept resolution.
I'll make a motion.
Good. You have a comment, Commissioner
I'll
Locke?
make a motion. I move that this item, that the concept hearing be continued to a date uncertain, so that the applicant has an opportunity to address the concerns that were voiced this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to continue this item. Is there any more discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion to continue is carried. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call a 10-minute recess. Thank you.
come up for roll call and then, yep. Get your steps in.
And go. Commissioner Allen?
Here.
Commissioner Delves?
Here.
Commissioner Karapetkov?
Here.
Commissioner Locke? Here. Chair LePage?
Here. Okay. Next, the last item on the public hearings, Commissioner Allen is recused from this item. And it is another design study. This is DS 22-191, the Newt project. Consideration of revised concept design study, DS 22101, for the demolition of more than 50% of the exterior walls of a single-story residence and construction of a new 1,578 square foot two-story residence and a 219 square foot detached garage, and it's located on the northwest corner of Carpenter Street and 4th Avenue. Now, staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair LePage. So we're back before you this evening with a revised design for the Newt project. This is a standard 4,000 square foot lot. It is a corner lot. As you mentioned, the existing house is about 1,100 square feet, and they are proposing a two-story addition. They're also proposing to demolish the existing detached garage and reconstruct it within the same footprint. So we've had two prior concept hearings, one on November 9th of 2022, and then a second one on June 14th of 2023. Both hearings were continued with direction to the applicant to make some design changes to mitigate impacts to the north neighbors' views, access to light, and privacy. So after the June hearing, the applicant took a step back and really kind of reconsidered what the design of their home could be to balance their needs along with mitigating those impacts to the neighbor. And they've come back with a new two-story design. So this is the third concept hearing. So just to revisit the prior designs, the goal was to preserve as much of the existing residence as possible, and then add a second story to the home. So the first concept design you can see at the top, the north neighbor is the grayed out home to the rear. And it's really that window that you see right next to the addition that's really important. It has a view, a water view. So the second concept design, the applicant shifted that second story, tried to open up that view cone a little bit, but there wasn't much of a change. So the third concept design in working with the neighbor has been to shift the two-story mass to the east, so up towards Carpenter Street. So rather than preserve the west side of the house, they're proposing to demolish it, create an outdoor living space, and then do a two-story addition on the east side. Just want to note, we do have another project here that has a non-conforming wall. The street side yard setback along 4th is 5 feet. The existing house is at 4 feet 9, and the bay window is at 3 feet 3 inches. So they are proposing to demolish the bay window, which certainly improves the situation, but they would like to maintain that wall. They are aware that the addition does need to meet the 5-foot setback, so there would need to be an offset between the existing residence and the addition. I think they're open to exploring rectifying that nonconformity if they can, but again, one of the project goals has been to preserve portions of the existing residence to the degree possible. So with that, staff's recommendation is that you adopt a resolution accepting the concept design study. I know the neighbor can speak on her behalf, but it is my understanding that the major concerns of privacy, access to light, and maintaining that existing view have been resolved. So the only two conditions I have this evening would be to complete the volume study and then to make that adjustment on the addition for that street side yard setback. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff?
Nope. Nope.
Thank you, Marnie. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite the applicant or the applicant's architect to come forward, make their presentation.
Hi, good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for taking your time out yesterday, which I know was an extra day for you, and this evening on Valentine's Day. I just want to say before Damien, our architect, comes up to talk about some of the specifics, is that we really did take a step back from the last commission hearing. We in partnership with our neighbor, we were able to kind of address with just a flip of our design. And frankly, I think this has been a win-win situation for us both, preserving her privacy, light, air, and view, while giving us slightly more private outdoor space from Carpenter. And I think we are extremely happy with the design that we have, and are willing to work through some of the issues from the setback, whatever we need to do there. But I look forward to continuing to work with our neighbor on the next phase of this project. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Damien, unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair LePage, commissioners and staff. Thank you for having us again. And so yeah, I don't want to repeat what's been said. Showed you on the site yesterday. What we took a step-by-step approach from the time we had to redesign here, and we checked the volume where the new building, the second story, would be located with Brendan and Marnie early on. Then we put some preliminary poles just to show the neighbor where the outline of the new second story would be. And once we had the green light, we went on and then designed this new concept. So yeah, I'm here for any questions that you may have, but I can just remind you the second story plate is about 4 inches below the maximum allowed. The top ridge is 40 inches below the maximum allowed. We reduced existing 512 pitch of the living room to 312, so that's going to lower also the existing roof of the first story. Yes, the yard now is on the interior of the lot, and we're going to leave the garage in place. So yeah, if there's any question, I'm here.
So any questions for the architect?
No.
No? Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, any members of the public can come forward to address the commission regarding this application.
Hi, I'm Erin Allen, a resident and the north neighbor. And I just want to say that I'm super happy to say that I support this project, and I think they're going to have a lovely home.
Thank you.
Ms. Allen, could you please confirm that you're speaking as a resident and not as a planning commissioner tonight?
Yes, I am Erin Allen, speaking as a resident.
Okay. We kind of ran out of people in the chamber here to speak, so, but we have online, but I don't see any hands going up there either, so I'm going to close the public comments, open it up to the commissioners. Commissioner Carmel-by-the-Sea, would you like to begin?
Yeah, I'm just so relieved that we finally found a compromise and found the right place for this house, and I think it looks good. I'm glad it's in a location where it doesn't obstruct views and privacy, and it does meet the requirements of the applicant. So fully in support of the project. Thank you.
Commissioner Dels, your comments, please.
Yeah, pardon me. Thank you, everybody. This is the way the way it is supposed to work, and I agree with you. I think it's a win-win-win. This looks like a better house. The previous two versions to me just looked like they were sort of an unnatural second-story addition to a pre-existing condition. This looks like it's something that's coming out of the ground organically and wholly as a full design, and it just looks better, and I think you'll enjoy it more. And I'm ready to support it.
And Commissioner Locke, your comments?
Well, I'll say what they said. And also, I think that you're going to find that you have more light and air in that back patio area, which is, like they said, win-win. And thank you for working with your neighbor. I think this is exactly what we're always looking for. So thank you.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add, other than to acknowledge that the applicant really worked through this, and I know at one point you were very frustrated, but it really speaks highly of your character that you reassess this, and I think the process has come up with a better design, and I think it's going to give you what you want, and it also respects the neighbors, and you really do need to be complimented for that, because I think you really rose to the occasion. So thank you so much. I don't have anything to add. We have a resolution, which Commissioner Delves is ready to.
I move to approve the resolution, and there's two conditions, and the volume study and the street side yard setback. So I move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a resolution that's been made and seconded. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Delves?
Yes.
Commissioner Karpetkov?
Yes.
Commissioner Locke?
Yes.
Chair LePage?
Yes, the motion is carried. Congratulations. Okay, tonight we have the director's report, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Pretty short report, though. I'm happy to announce that Catherine Wallace will be back as of this Friday.
Yay.
Excited to welcome her back from her maternity leave. And then I also want to let you know Marnie and our ad hoc committee for the housing element had a good mid-cycle review meeting with HCD, I believe it was last week, Marnie? Yeah. And so we expect to get comments. This is our second round of comments with the state. We basically, what we sent was our response to their comments, the first round of comments. We expect to get those comments back, and hopefully what we're getting back from them is, good job, you did it right, go ahead and adopt it, because we're on target, or we're shooting to have it adopted by April 15th. So kudos to Marnie and the whole team for having those proactive conversations with the state, which I think is going to help smooth the way. And then the last thing I have is more, if you guys will indulge me maybe for a couple of minutes worth of conversation. This was a sort of a grand experiment, the 2 days that we just did. It's not something I don't think the city's ever done before, having like a 2-day planning commission, regular items. I'm curious, we've talked about it as staff, and I'll converse with each of you individually, but sometimes it's helpful to talk as a group. What you all thought about this. What we accomplished was, in 2 days, we had 2 relatively shorter meetings. The tour yesterday was very long, I recognize that. But we got 11 projects through in a one cycle, versus normally we're at 7 or 8 projects. So I'm curious what you all thought, if you'll indulge me with a little bit of conversation. And please be as critical as you want, because this was an experiment.
Do we actually have that big of a backlog to where we have to do this? Is that the concern?
So what the idea with the experiment was, what we find is that after maybe 3 or 4 months, so we do agenda meetings every week with our staff, and we talk about when items are going to be ready for hearing, where they're at in the process. And what we find is, after maybe 3 or 4 months worth, we're just past that threshold of where we can get 7-ish projects done and not keep you here until 11 o'clock at night, basically. And so what happens to those projects is, even though they're ready to go, and they maybe have been in the hopper already for a few months, even though they're ready to go, they have to wait another month, or sometimes even 2, depending on where other people are at. So what this allowed us to do, like you heard from a few people tonight that got up and testified, is they were able to get onto this agenda rather than having to wait another month. They've already been waiting. So the idea with this concept would not be to do this every month. This would be every 3 to 4 months. If we have a backlog built up, then we'll throw a special meeting on the calendar, obviously working with everyone's schedules. Every other month, it would just be our typical one-day meeting. But I think this might be a way to address sometimes when we have a backlog built up. This would always be yesterday would always be a special meeting. You know, this is our regular agendized meeting. So yeah, that was the idea. It's a tool for us possibly.
So Brandon, I think the way we did it this time was actually really good if you can find 2 days that we can be available, because getting all of the tour done on one day, I think was extremely helpful, and it also saved Aaron and I both from having to take, the full day off.
It was nice to just come to a 4 o'clock meeting today. Or we felt it too.
Yeah, it was. And I know for me, it's more difficult to try to take 2 afternoons fully off, but I can handle doing the one. So I'm good with it if it's every 3 to 4 months. I'd be, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, my experiences, and I have experienced this many times, that the longer the meeting needs to go on, it gets hard to just concentrate, and particularly when you throw in the tour. So if you got a tour, you're starting around 2 and you're getting out of here around 10. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I have to make sure that I eat a lot more than I normally would. Otherwise, I'll just crash. So I was, when you first approached me, I said, I think we're going to have better quality if we do it this way. And I think that was how it turned out. And also, I agree, I liked having the tour, on that one day. It was really nice today not to, it made it easier. So we're devoting 2 days, but we're not having to start at 2:30.
How was the reading load for everybody? It was a lot. I mean, it's 11 projects.
It was a couple of days.
On Sunday and then Monday night too. So
yeah. But we would have to do it anyway if we were having a long meeting. So I don't think
theoretically, yes, but we would never, I would never put 11 items on one night. I would never do that to you.
Well, what this did by splitting it up was it gave me the opportunity to follow up. So I focused primarily on yesterday's meeting and got to some of today's, and so I was able to finish today as I needed to today. And so I think that's fine. I mean, that to me was good.
Because we've been talking internally about some tweaks that we could do, if we knew, because we would know in advance that it was going to be a 2-day meeting, so we could launch the packet a day or two earlier. Give you a couple
that would be fantastic.
I can imagine it wasn't fun to get 11 staff reports to read on Friday.
No.
This week is kind of difficult because of Valentine's Day, because of President's Day coming on Monday. And
the Super Bowl.
Erin and I both work full time, and if we have some kind of emergency at work, some kind of important workshop or project, it can get really tough. Reviewing the documentation. But if we can plan it a little bit better, not around holidays, not around major events.
We also realized it's coming off on the heels of a planning commission that was on the 24th.
Yes, correct.
The month before. So this was, I don't think we actually could have picked a worse week to do it.
It was
to
close.
be honest.
Yeah.
So we recognize that internally as well.
I think it's really helping with my jokes.
Now we need the jacket.
I don't know how you improve on perfection, sir, but okay.
Well, when they come close together, I get on track.
Commissioner Delves, what do you think?
I'm on record that I get stupid at 7 o'clock, so anytime we can get out of here before, and I'm not saying we get out of here, but before 8.
Yeah.
This helps throughout the course of the year to manage that. Let's please do it.
Okay.
I think the biggest downside is just getting out earlier.
Yeah.
Not getting out late. That's the good side.
Yeah.
The downside is when we get out late. That's just
it is,
really hard.
It's hard. It's hard for the staff.
You guys too, because you guys are working all
sure.
day too. It's a long day.
Yeah.
And we live here.
Yeah, right.
It'd be a huge bummer if you did 2 nights in a row where we were here until 10.
I would never do that to you or myself or my staff.
That could be.
I would never drum me right out of town.
Are you seeing more projects that require review by the Planning Commission coming in? Or?
That's a good question. Nah, not necessarily. I just think that, the tempo just has seemed to have shown itself that every 3 to 4 months, I think we need a bigger agenda. I think they just kind of pile up. So no, I don't think we're seeing more. We are seeing more projects come through. I will say that. We're seeing about a 30 to 35% uptick in applications across like planning and building over the last year.
Because my thinking is, by approving more projects faster, aren't we creating an additional problem in terms of logistics and noise and construction going on at the same time? Because that's, we don't really want to end up in a situation where in a couple of months we have every second house in the community being remodeled.
That's Casanova.
Or Fourth Street.
Yeah. I think it's good to be sensitive to that. I mean, do I think that approving an extra 3 projects every 4 months is going to do that? I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
There's a lot of other factors that affect
And
construction, how long it goes on.
And you all have started to put on a requirement for a construction management plan for the last 8 to 12 months.
That's the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I just had another question. So the ADU ordinance, where's that at?
Oh, that's thank you. I should have put that on here. So Evan and I had a really, both he and I walked away from the conversation with HCD kind of looking at each other like, did that really go that well? It was very, very encouraging. They didn't out of the gates and actually somewhat said, yeah, we see where you're coming from with our interpretations of the LCP. They did say that they liked the commission's suggestion about not capping it at 1,800 square feet, period, but having 1,800 plus, pick a number, say 400 or something where you can still get an ADU. So what we're gonna do, I think maybe we already did. Did we send it back to them yet?
We're still waiting on their comments.
Yeah, come on up. Could you say your name, please, sir?
Yeah. My name's Evan. I'm a planner. They took a look at our draft ordinance, and they were going to provide us with some comments on the draft ordinance that you looked at our workshop. We're just waiting on some comments from them. We're going to incorporate their comments into a revised draft, and then we'll sit down with HCD as well as the Coastal Commission and kind of workshop through the outstanding issues, and then we'll, I guess, bring it back to the commission.
Yeah, it was great because they offered, I think they even offered to coordinate the meeting with the Coastal Commission that we know as well. So they offered to sit down with the city, the Coastal Commission, and HCD staff to find that sort of perfect nexus of coastal plan, HCD law, and what the city wants to accomplish with an ADU ordinance. So it's going to take a little more time, but I think we're going to end up with a much better product and something that will sail through the subsequent approvals at both the Coastal Commission and HCD much faster. So both Evan and I were really, I don't mean to speak for you, but I was encouraged.
Yeah.
It felt really good. Yeah.
Okay, we're done? We're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
You look at me.